Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. Joining us today to share the results of some newly published research showing significant benefits to both average daily gain and carcass value among low-risk yearling Angus steers that have been treated with maternal bovine appeasing substance are Dr. Reinaldo Cooke of Texas A&M University and James Prather, manager at Spindletop Ranch in Texas. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us. And I also want to thank our audience for joining us. If you folks that are tuning in have any questions, feel free to post those there in the chat on your screen. Or if you're joining us from social media, you can post those directly in your social media channels. So Dr. Cooke, let's start with you. Let's have you tell us a bit about yourself and a bit about your background.
Yeah, my name is Reinaldo Cooke. I'm a professor at Texas A&M University. I was born and raised in Brazil and came to the U.S. about 20-something years ago, grad school at the University of Florida, work as a faculty member for Oregon State University for 9 years, and then been with A&M since 2017. My research is on beef cattle production, from cow-calf management to feedlot nutrition and carcass quality.
So James, talk to us about yourself and Spindletop Ranch.
Yes, ma'am. I've been at Spindletop Ranch since February of 2020. Prior to that, I graduated from LSU in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 2016, and then I graduated from TCU Ranch Management in 2017. After that, I've worked in a few different states on a few different cow-calf operations. Prior to Spindletop, I was in Sarah, Oklahoma on a yearling cow-calf operation, and then began here as the ranch manager in February 2020. Been here ever since.
Very good. Very good. So we have the first maternal bovine appeasing substance that's approved for use here in the U.S. It's called FerAppease. That's what we want to talk about here today. So Dr. Cooke, tell us, what exactly is this product and how does this product work?
So the bovine appeasing substance is the analog of the natural pheromone that cows produce when they're lactating. So when the cow gives birth to a calf, and it's of course producing milk, the mammary gland produces a pheromone that helps with the cow and calf bonding, so the maternal recognition by the calf. And with that bonding, it also gives a appeasing effect to the calf because of the presence of the mother. So just behind the nose, the calf has an organ that's called vomeronasal organ, which perceives the pheromone and then binds to the receptors and translates to the brain this appeasing effect. So the bovine appeasing substance is the analog of this natural pheromone, and we use that in terms of as a management option to decrease stress in cattle. So it mimics the effects of the natural pheromone. What it's funny is that vomeronasal organ that has the receptors for the pheromone is active in the bovine unto adult life. In humans, we're born with this organ functional, but it shrinks as we grow. Now in cattle, it stays active until they are older, throughout their lives.
So you mentioned cattle. Is that the species that it's best suited for? Or where does this product work exactly? What species?
Most mammals produce the pheromone, from cows to also humans. Like I said, the cattle and horses, they keep that organ active until they're adults. And FerAppease is specific for cattle, mimics the specific pheromone that cattle produces, because it varies from species to species.
So when should it be used? What's kind of the recommendations?
Any stressful procedure, any stressful moment in their lives, throughout the beef production cycle. So as we produce beef, from calves all the way to a feedlot cattle, there are moments where we expose animals to stressful situations as part of management procedures. So we have to wean the calves from their moms. We have to load them into a truck and haul them from the cow-calf ranch to a stocker operation or to a feedlot. We have to handle them, for initial processing, for vaccinations, for getting a body weight. So every time that you expose cattle to a management procedure that is stressful, that is the moment that therapies can be applied to mitigate the stress and the consequence that stress brings to animal performance and health.
You've done some research with this product. Walk us through your design, your methodology, kind of what that research has looked like.
I've done studies on this from weaning to high-risk cattle to lower-risk cattle, yearlings arriving in the feed yard. And I'm going to focus this interview on the last study that we did with yearling cattle arriving at the feed yard in about 900 pounds, 12 months of age. We call that low-risk cattle. And low risk because they have lower risk of developing morbidity and disease as they arrive in the feed yard. So we bought cattle from a stocker operation in Oklahoma, about 240 head. And they were grazing, from weaning into the beginning of the study. So they were grazing for about 4 or 5 months. We moved them to Bushland, Texas, in our experimental feed yard where we started the project. So they were low risk. They were bigger. They were healthier. They were older. They were transported for just a couple hours. So it's stress, but it's a low risk kind of stress, but still stress, right? Because you're moving them from the stocker operation to the feedlot. They are going to a truck. They are changing the environment. They are being handled. They're being exposed to several stressors that we know impact their productivity and also welfare. So they were on feed for about 138 days, 140 days, which is typical for finishing operations. They arrive at 900 pounds. We kill them at about 1,500 pounds, which is what we do nowadays in our industry. And then we applied FerAppease at 2 moments. As they arrive for initial processing, when we vaccinated, we tagged them, we implanted them, we got the initial body weight. Then we use another dose of FerAppease about 75 days later when we had to reimplant cattle with growth promoting implants. So when you bring those cattle to the working facility to reimplant and they are weighing 1,100 pounds, that is also very stressful to them because they're heavy. You're getting them out of the pens. You're changing their social structure. You're changing their routine. That's also stress. So we applied twice at initial processing, and then when we had to handle them for reimplant, 2 doses. And of course, there's cattle that were not applied FerAppease at all. So that's the design that we used.
What about the results? What did you see in those feed yard cattle?
Well, this research is published, is public knowledge. Just to summarize, the cattle that receive FerAppease, especially after the reimplant, they ate more because the FerAppease was able to minimize the consequence of stress, so they didn't go off feed as much as the control did after reimplant. We ended up the study with the FerAppease cattle 22 pounds heavier in terms of live weight, which translated into about 15 pounds more of hot carcass weight. In addition to heavier carcasses, 95% of the FerAppease cattle graded choice or prime, and less than 90% of the controls. So looking at this the other way around, 12% of the control cattle, 12 of the control cattle graded select, and only 5% of the FerAppease cattle graded select. We did a quick economical assessment, taking into account heavier carcasses and better quality carcasses because marbling was better for the FerAppease cattle. We estimated a return on investment of 15 to 1. For each dollar invested, we got back $15 more of return by using FerAppease. So if you're investing $1, you're getting $15 back. If you're investing $1,000, you're getting $15,000 back.
Not too shabby. So when you went into this research, did you think you were going to get these kinds of results?
When we think about stress, we're not thinking about yearling cattle going to feedlot because we classify them as low risk, right? We don't see a lot of morbidity in that type of cattle compared to 5 weights or 6 weights arriving in a receiving yard, but there's still stress, right? There's still stress involved. And by mitigating that stress, even though at a lower intensity compared to other situations, we were able to find those responses, and that was the hypothesis. Even though it's a low-risk cattle, 9 weights, yearlings, they still are exposed to stress, and FerAppease was going to help mitigate that stress, consequently improve performance and carcass quality.
So, taking a look at your research, what takeaways do you want to leave producers, feedlot managers, nutritionists, and others in the cattle industry with when it comes to FerAppease and just your research results in general?
We have this study. We have a plethora of other studies as well with FerAppease, from castration to application using at castration, dehorning, at the time of weaning, high-risk cattle, like I mentioned before, 5 weights arriving in a receiving yard, and then this final study with low-risk cattle. Every time you're going to be exposing cattle to stress, and mandatory stress, because that's part of the beef production system, FerAppease is a mandatory tool to be used, because the ROIs, the return on investment, are always positive and substantially positive. On the other hand, if your cattle are not going to be stressed at all, let's say that you're not re-implanting in the finishing lot, there's no reason to apply. You don't want to create stress to use FerAppease. You're going to be adding FerAppease to mandatory procedures where you're going to be doing anyways, because it's part of the production system, and you're going to incorporate FerAppease into that processing event.
So now, James, you've actually had experience with this product, so we want to talk to you about some of that. What
Yes.
type of cattle have you used FerAppease on?
So 100% of the cattle that I've used FerAppease on are freshly ball and weaned calves. They're averaging about 400 to 450 pounds, all Angus sired, and steer heifers. Our entire calf crop, spring and fall, gets it at weaning. Yes, ma'am. So we usually wean sets anywhere from 250 to 300 head at a time. And as soon as they're pulled from the moms, they're revacked and they're given FerAppease. Yes, ma'am.
So why did you choose to try this product? Is there something that you said, I really need to do this, or you're having issues, or just curious? What was your thinking there when you chose to put it with your cattle?
Well, Felipe, he approached me in the summer of 22, I believe, with the product. I had never heard about it, but our cattle go through a very large period of stress. All of our calves go to another operation of ours in Goodland, Kansas. It's a 15-hour truck ride, and that ranch is owned by the same owners of Spindletop, and we have summer grass there as well as a grill yard. So 100% of the calf crop goes there. That's the only cattle at that operation are Spindletop's calf crop. And on that truck ride, they were experiencing close to 9% shrink. A normal doctoring from a closed herd, but concerns about the shrink, a lot of stress. We ship a lot in May and June of those fall calves at weaning, and a lot of night shipments, stressful periods during the day with heat and everything else. So they approached us. They had this product. It's all natural, pheromone. Decided to give it a try, and the first set I used it on was 173 head of lightweights we had pulled off of some heifer calves. And of those 173, they averaged about 275 pounds, and they only had 2 doctoring pulls out of that set. So after that, I started giving it across the board to every calf at weaning.
And you've really noticed a difference, it sounds like, right, since you've
Yes,
started
ma'am.
using that product?
Yes, ma'am. In the past, these calves are leaving anywhere from 2 to 3 days after we pull them off their moms. They're revacked here outside, and then they're heading north. We don't precondition here at the ranch, but in that time period, it used to be that sometimes at day 2, 3, those cattle would still be balling on those trucks. Now, if they receive FerAppease in the morning, usually by that evening, they're done walking and they're eating and drinking that afternoon or that evening.
So kind of you've seen a benefit then from a health and a performance standpoint, it sounds like.
Yes, ma'am. Doctoring percentages have gone way down when they get to Goodland. Death loss probably dropped 0.5%, and shrink dropped a percent. for sure since we started the product. Yes, ma'am.
So what would you tell other producers who might be a little skeptical about the product? What would be your advice?
Similar to what Dr. Cook said, your cost and the value you get back outweighs the cost. It's about $2 or a little over $2 a head for me to give this product right now. And I've seen in just in that percent, that 4 pounds that I got back on that shrink, which is worth about $3.50 a pound right now, that value outweighs the cost of that product by far, in my opinion.
So Dr. Cook, give us your final thoughts, your words of wisdom here when it comes to the product, comes to what folks might need to be thinking about.
I think the science behind FerAppease is clear. There is an extensive body of literature supporting its benefits throughout the whole beef production cycle. When they're baby calves and you are castrating, all the way to yearling cattle being processed for feedyard arrival or re-implant. The benefits are there. And then, as James said, there's a cost to it, but the return is outstanding, and it's backed by science. I'm talking about my research here. I'm not talking about FerAppease or the product. I'm talking about Texas A&M research, and all the research we've done support the claims of the product and the science behind it. It's outstanding. So there is a cost. With everything in life, there is a cost, but we need to focus on the return. And the return on this specific technology is clear, and it's substantial.
Return is always very important to our producers out there. I want to thank you both for taking time to join us here today. We appreciate your time and your insight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise, we appreciate all of you and our audience tuning in. A reminder that you can view this interview along with other Feedstuffs 365 interviews on feedstuffs.com. Until next time, for Feedstuffs, I'm Sarah Muirhead.